Om Shanti. Is everyone doing well? Recently, there has been a major controversy about the cloth that Jesus was wrapped in at the time of his death. Researchers examined it and claimed that it contains about 40% Indian ancestral DNA. So, they suggest that there may be a close connection between Indians and that cloth. It could have been handled by Indians. Or it might have been manufactured in India. Or perhaps it was made from thread that originated in India. Because of this, some people raise the question, was Jesus actually Indian? They say that Jesus came to India, learned the Gita and other scriptures here, and then went back and preached those teachings. Some even claim that at the end of his life, he returned to India and died here. These kinds of stories are told. But if you think about it, 2,000 years ago, many regions that we now see as separate might have been closely connected. If you ask, everything might even have been considered part of a broader Indian civilization at that time. In the Old Testament of the Bible, many of the things described seem similar to practices found in Hinduism. It appears as if people from one faith were being converted into another religion. For example, the practice of worshipping Nandi is mentioned clearly. It even describes how a temple should be constructed and how worship should be performed, things that resemble what happens in Hindu temples today. Some people go even further and say that Jesus was Tamil. But rather than debating whether Jesus was Tamil or Indian, the real point is this: a person named Jesus did live. That is true. Christianity was founded based on him. However, the story that is told about Jesus, did those events actually happen in reality? Is there a possibility that they truly occurred? If you think about it, in the end, it is said that he suddenly ascended upward and flew into the sky. Is that something that can realistically happen? Can someone physically lift their body and go upward? What exactly is there above to go to? That part suggests that the story may not have literally happened in that way. Some say that the story of Krishna later became the story of Christ. In many places, if you observe carefully, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the Bible all move toward conveying the same core message. If you look at the Ramayana, what is the story? The kingdom is taken away, and the prince is sent into exile in the forest. Later, he returns to reclaim the kingdom. Did he return on his own without conflict? No, there is a battle involved, though not directly for the throne in the same way. In the Mahabharata, what happens? There too, the kingdom is taken away, and they are sent into exile in the forest. When they return, they are refused their share and told they will not be given anything. So they fight a war to reclaim it. In the Ramayana, they do not fight a war to regain the throne in the same way, but instead there is a battle with Ravana outside the kingdom. Now, what does the Bible say? Humanity is driven out of heaven by God. Later, human beings must find a way to return to heaven. Essentially, it is the same pattern of story. If you take the story of Jesus himself, in the beginning he appears very angry. When he was hungry and found no figs on the fig tree, he cursed it, and it withered and dried up. That shows how intense his anger seemed at that moment. But in the end, even toward the one who pierced his side, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." His nature had completely transformed. That transformation itself is the real story being told about him. In the same way, Lord Murugan is also described as very fiery and quick-tempered, isn't he? In a sense, one could say that Murugan is like the Jesus Christ of Hinduism, and Jesus Christ is like the Murugan of Christianity. Here too, he becomes suddenly angry. With Murugan, there is anger over the divine fruit of wisdom. There, with Jesus, there is anger over the fig fruit. Here it is about the Jnana Pasham, fruit of knowledge, there it is about the figure. In Murugan's story, he leaves in anger, doesn't he? In the end, deciding that nothing is needed, he goes wearing only a loincloth and stands at Palani Hill. In the same way, there too, Jesus is on the cross wearing only a loincloth. So what does that mean? It means being ready to lose everything. How is that possible? Do you know when all this actually belongs to? It is not something that happened 2,000 or 1,000 years ago. These are events that are happening, or are going to happen, at the end of Kali Yuga. They were created in advance in the form of stories. They are not their stories, they are our story. Today we see, from house to house, property disputes and property being grabbed. We see even entire nations being taken over. When all this happens, instead of fighting with them, just let it go. Why? Because my Father is the Supreme Father, the Supreme Shiva. He will give me the highest status in heaven. If I can prove that I have no attachment to what exists here, that is enough. So let us prove it. When someone comes to take what belongs to us, if your mind does not panic, if you do not curse them, if you instead think, may the one who took it be well, that is what is shown there when Jesus says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. When Rama's kingdom was taken away, his face did not change, he smiled and said, is it not my younger brother who is ruling? His smile did not fade. The message in all these stories is that you must transform in this way. Instead of understanding that message, researching whether the shirt he wore came from India or whether the trousers came from India is the height of ignorance. Because first of all, that story itself did not literally happen in that way. This glory does not belong to Jesus, nor to Rama, nor to Krishna. In truth, it is not even their story. Jesus came, established his religion, and went. Likewise, Valalar came and established his path of Dharma. In the same way, Jesus established a Dharma. That is all. The story and Jesus are not directly connected in the way people imagine. Similarly, Rama came, Krishna came. They have no literal connection to the events described in the Mahabharata or Ramayana as we commonly think. In Krishna's time, there were no demons like Kamsa in the way they are described. There was no need for such battles. Krishna was the first emperor of this world. At that time, the earth itself was heaven. 5,000 years ago, it was the Satya Yuga. So Krishna did not live in the Dwapara Yuga as people say. It was Jesus who lived in the Dwapara Yuga, when sin began. There, people begin to commit sin, but there is no immediate punishment. However, in heaven, no one commits sin at all. Krishna lived in the Satya Yuga. That Krishna, in his childhood and later after marriage, when he attained the royal position, was known as Narayana. Because he lived in Satya Yuga, they are called Satya Narayana and Satyabhama. They are also called Adi Narayana and Adi Lakshmi, the first Narayana and the first Lakshmi who appeared at the beginning. They existed in the Satya Yuga. In that lineage, there was the first Narayana, the second Narayana, up to 8 generations. That is why the 8 Lakshmis, Ashtalakshmis, are described as the consorts of those 8 Narayanas. In the next Yuga, there are said to be 12 Ramas and Sitas. And here, no Ravana will ever abduct any Sita. Ravana was not originally a literal person. Can anyone really exist with 10 physical heads? The 10-headed Ravana represents something else, the 5 vices in a man, lust, anger, attachment, greed, and ego, combined with the same 5 vices in a woman. Together they form the symbolic 10 heads of Ravana. Today, that Ravana exists inside every one of us. Do you know why he entered within us? It is to give us the message that we should destroy body consciousness, the feeling that I am this body, and move into soul consciousness, the awareness that I am a soul. The self itself is God. In the end, he comes. The one whom Hindus call Shiva, Christians call the Supreme Father, and Muslims call Allah, that God is one. He is the one who comes at the end. All glory belongs only to him. The reason Jesus was made to carry the cross, the reason Rama was made to lose everything. These things happen so that we may be transformed. That transformation happens through the knowledge given by Shiva. How? Because when we think too much in terms of this is my family, my father, my mother, attachment arises. My caste, my religion, my country, all this attachment comes from body consciousness. So understand, this body is not I. I am only a soul. The father of that soul is Shiva, the Supreme Soul. Today sin has accumulated in the soul, and because of that, sorrow comes in one form or another. Understand that this sorrow comes because of sin. Someone may become the instrument and betray you, but do not focus on that. The soul must become pure. No matter what happens, remain in remembrance of the Supreme Soul Shiva. Only thoughts of goodwill for others should arise. Even if someone seizes your property and leaves you standing in the middle of the street, you should wish that he remains well. You should wish that his mind changes, not so that he escapes punishment for your benefit, not so that you gain something, but purely out of goodwill. If you think like that, then you yourself will be worshipped as Murugan or Sri Rama, with temples built for you and rituals performed. The story of Jesus is the same as the stories of the Hindu deities, it is not a separate story. The story of Prophet Muhammad is also the same. Don't people say that in his early life he made certain mistakes? That he married at a young age? That he fought battles? Many such things are spoken of. But in the end, even those who poisoned him were forgiven by him. When it is said, if someone strikes one cheek, show the other, the same message is there. And even that is not literally his story. Whatever you study in any religion is not a literal historical event. In the end, God transforms us into that state. God does not physically hang us on a cross. Rather, he changes us into people who can forgive even those who cause us sorrow. What is the benefit of forgiving like that? When Kali Yuga ends and Satya Yuga begins, you will attain the highest position in that heaven. Those who receive this knowledge but still do not change their nature and continue to give you sorrow, they too will come to heaven. But they will come as your servants. Those who do not take this knowledge will, after heaven ends and this same earth becomes hell again, in any case come as your servants. Isn't this the message in the Ramayana? Ravana gives so much torture to Rama. But when Ravana is later transformed and Vishnu reigns in heaven, Ravana becomes a servant in that household. This is the message. There are many such messages. In the Bible and in the Ramayana, at every step there are multiple layers of meaning. That is why we even run a separate channel for the Bible, and another channel for the Quran, sharing these messages. But instead of having the interest to understand this deeper meaning, if people are only interested in researching whether the cloth or garment someone wore had Indian DNA in it, what is going to happen because of that? Is there any benefit in that? No. God gives knowledge in order to transform our nature. How does that transformation look? It has been presented in the form of stories such as the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bible, and the Quran. They show, in story form, what we become when our nature changes. That is how we are meant to change. But people leave that aside. Instead, it becomes convenient for them to simply chant something mechanically like Om Namah Shivaya. Changing one's nature feels difficult, while going around temples and sacred places in the town feels easy. They go around and come back, but transforming their own character seems hard. Actually, it is not hard. You must realize that you are a soul and remember Shiva, the Supreme Soul, like a star in the sky. By remembering again and again, you come to understand, just as the Father has no physical body, I too am a soul without identification with the body. You must forget the consciousness of I am this body. That is why the Bible says those who live according to the flesh are impure. Because from body consciousness arise lust, anger, attachment, greed, and ego. All sins accumulate from that. Jesus said that even looking at a woman with lustful intent is adultery. He did not say other than your wife. People have interpreted it conveniently for themselves. Nowadays they say that if two adults willingly engage in lust, whether man or woman, it is not wrong. Laws have come saying that if it is consensual, it is not wrong. It has become like that. But what Jesus said is that lust itself is wrong. The same message is in the Gita. There, desire is called the great enemy. Why would that be spoken in the middle of a battlefield? That is what I am saying. The battle described is not a physical war. It is the battle against Satan. And Satan is this Maya, this Ravana, lust, anger, attachment, greed, and ego. Because we were driven by these and committed sins, we have lost everything. In heaven, people do not even know what lust is. When a husband and wife desire to have a child, the wife conceives, there is purity. We build temples and worship such pure beings. We must become that pure. Once, we ourselves were like that. But the glory does not belong to them, it belongs to the one who made them that way, Shiva. He alone is eternally pure. That is why when Jesus was called good teacher, he said, "No one is good except the Father." He asked, "How can you call me good?" The truly pure teacher is God, the one who gives knowledge. He has come to give that knowledge. At the end of the Iron Age, God gives this knowledge. In devotion, you may have seen images in Shiva temples of Dakshinamurti, seated under a tree, giving knowledge to sages. Those sages are none other than us, who are now receiving this knowledge. We used to think that God would give knowledge only to great sages, not to ordinary people, and so that image appeared in that form. But now, at the end of the Iron Age, God gives this knowledge to ordinary human beings, people who may even think there is no God and who have committed many sins, and He makes them pure like Himself. That is why all glory belongs to that one Shiva. God comes in the body of an elderly man and gives this knowledge. He gives that elderly man the name Brahma. Those who listen to this knowledge through the mouth of Brahma are called Brahma Kumaris. This knowledge is also called Murli. It is available completely free of cost at all Brahma Kumaris Raja Yoga centers. It is also available on YouTube and websites, and the link is given in the description of this video. Please do watch and benefit. Om Shanti.